The Charlotte Hornets lose again to the Toronto Raptors. Also short-handed, Miles Bridges denied access into Canada. We do try to focus on some of the bright spots, though, just a little bit today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. If you watch YouTube, you can see Doug at his house. You can see the beautiful Christmas tree in the background where the top of the tree is still not lit after the last time he mentioned that. You can also see Doug Bransing very close to the camera, and I appreciate the dance moves as well. There you go. Very close. You got a bug in there. You might want to take care of that. That's okay. I'm Walker Mail. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. And this episode is brought to you by none other than Game Time. Game Time. We appreciate Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Doug, here's another loss to the Toronto Raptors. This was the last time they beat a team, I guess, about a week ago, a little bit more than that. And I thought there would be a shot here, right? When we talk about how tough the schedule is, the Raptors, they were 10-15 coming into this game. Even if it was in their arena, I thought, okay, maybe this was the team because they were just starting to unravel. They'd only won one game in December. They lost all the other ones. This is a team that is in blow-it-up territory. Went on a trade. OG Anunoby's been on the block a million times. Siakam, same thing. Scotty Barnes up and down first two seasons, but he was very good last night, contributing in a lot of areas. And here the Hornets are just shorthanded. Miles Bridges gets denied access into Canada. The Hornets would say that it was personal reasons.
Technically correct.
Yeah, true. It's true. That's because he had pled no contest to a felony charge of domestic violence, so he was not allowed in Canada. Nathan Mensah also, for personal reasons, not allowed in Canada. So both of those guys did not play.
So I didn't know that. You're breaking news to me. So Mensah wasn't allowed across the border either.
From what I understand, I think that was how they relayed that information to us on Twitter. And so I can look it up really quickly. I'm just going to Charlotte's Twitter timeline. So I'm still scrolling. Maybe we have to look it up in a little bit. I'm pretty sure that's what they said. So, okay. No Nathan Mensah.
Okay, we'll look it up. Don't worry.
But I wouldn't have made a difference here. Okay. Maybe Miles would have in the fourth quarter. That's when things started to unravel for the Charlotte Hornets. But Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, Brandon Miller, those are the guys that are a normal part of your rotation, and everywhere else it's really tough to justify their minutes. I mean, Nick Richards is a legitimate backup center to the Hornets, but then you go to the bench. Leaky Black plays 11 minutes, JT Thor 14, Ish 23, Nick Smith Jr. 20. That is your bench. Doug, it's much more the same here, especially with the injuries that they're battling. It was tough to foresee a win. I thought there was a shot because it's the Raptors, but just not enough firepower. And they fell off a cliff in the fourth.
Yeah, I mean, when we looked at the game, the first game that they played, the last time the Hornets won, I was scared because Toronto was really good at getting out into transition, and the Hornets are really bad at getting back into transition. But the other thing is that the Raptors really fight hard on the offensive boards, and they, like the Hornets, like to get some points off the glass because they struggle to, like the Hornets, score in the half court. And it took them a while, but eventually Toronto was able to punish the smaller lineup that the Hornets have been forced to go to with PJ Washington at center. And I don't think they would have played Mensah necessarily, even if he was available, because I think with PJ there, they were just going to go with him at center. But eventually they punished that, and interestingly, I think they did it less with Pirtle, who is the guy that typically
he didn't play. He didn't play the whole fourth quarter. I mean, Doug, honestly, I thought it was the smaller lineups that they went with that were really effective. It's just
it's because their smaller lineups feature guys that are physically, imposed, like Barnes.
Well, they're long. They're just long and athletic. That's what they are.
Yeah, Barnes was knocking guys out of the way. Barnes was knocking Nick Richards out of the way. He was not, Nick Richards played a little bit in the fourth, but he was bouncing PJ out of the paint too, and PJ's banged up. That's not 100% PJ. And he didn't look I think as confident in all of his movements with that shoulder issue that he's got going on. And the Hornets ultimately couldn't make up for it, with outside shooting. They were 0 for 8 in that fourth quarter as well. So it all came crumbling down, but they did keep it close for 3 quarters. And I thought there were a few young players who got some minutes in this game. We could talk about that a little bit later. Some bright spots there from some of the young guys like Bryce McGowan's, Brandon Miller, and Nick Smith Jr. I thought we saw Takeover Terry come back from last season. And that's not even really a critique. It was a critique last season because we saw it over and over again and it wasn't helpful. In this one, when you don't have Miles Bridges on top of every other, shot maker contributor that you've lost so far, it was almost impossible for Terry not to go into that mode into the fourth quarter. But I think he made 2 guys miss, and then Scotty Barnes just knew that Terry was not going to give the ball up and was hunting a help side block. And so he was sort of telegraphing it at that point. Again, not a critique. I don't even blame him, but that's the situation that the Hornets find themselves in now.
Well, I think Terry and PJ have the ultimate green light in this scenario because PJ took 16 shots. There were some shots that I wouldn't advise in a normal situation. And PJ, as much as I like him, it's not a guy that I trust a ton with the basketball driving just because we've seen him have the basketball tapped loose a few times. His handle isn't great. It can get you by in a pinch, but we've had to see it way too often the last 2 years when, okay, he can do that and he can have some moments where that's okay, but you really want him spotting up, maybe one dribble and then pick it up and then go to the lane rather than trying to set some things up for other guys. But you don't have Miles. Brandon Miller, just like who's your paint attacker, right? That's why Miles, when he came back, was huge for them in a basketball sense because Terry is someone that you feel okay about creating his own shot, especially in the half court. LaMelo had been attacking, and that was really helping the team. He had been getting there a lot more. But PJ, not going to do it a ton off the dribble, maybe 1 or 2 dribbles, but it's not like you want him taking guys off immediately and creating his own shot. Brandon is settling for mid-range jumpers, so that's going to hurt him. And here's Jakob Poeltl not playing in the fourth quarter because this is the same thing that's happened to them so many other times, Doug. When the other team goes small, what's frustrating is that you don't even have Mark Williams out there. Usually they get attacked with small lineups when Mark is the center, but it's the same when Nick Richards is the center and Jakob doesn't have to go out there. And Toronto just has some, really effective run with Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, a bunch of long dudes. That's what Toronto's MO has been, very Orlando Magic-esque as well. But it worked for him last night, and in the fourth quarter, they outscore the Hornets by near 20, and that's how they get a big win, despite it being a close game for most of the duration of it. And it was the fourth that separated them.
Well, you asked who they're going to depend on to kind of penetrate, get to the paint. It was Ish Smith. Terry Rozier through that third quarter was sitting with 4 fouls, and Ish played a vast majority of that third quarter, important minutes because the game was super close. And he, for some of his faults, like he can't hit a 3 to save his life. His mid-range jumper is somewhat inconsistent. A few turnovers here and there, but not a huge problem. But for all of those issues, he can get by his guy, even in his 14th year now. He can still get by his guy and get into the paint and pull a defense. And in the end of that third quarter, he did a good job, had 2 buckets, got a great kick to the corner for 3 points. So big minutes for Ish. They're keeping it close. One of the funniest moments from the game came from Ish Smith. That's 2 games in a row now, 2 straight games that Ish has delivered, in my opinion, the funniest moment from the game. In the game against Philly, it was him giving the 2 thumbs up on the bench with gauze in his nose because Embiid gave him the whack to the noodle. And so in this one, he turns it over, and there's a timeout called, and he heads back to the bench. No, he didn't turn it over. He fouled Dennis Schroeder. And that gave up the lead for the first time in a while. It was around 3 minutes left in the third quarter. He heads back to the bench. Cody Martin, Captain Street Clothes, stops him and is like trying to give him some advice, some strategy that he's seeing from the Pine. And Ish gives him this look. Go back to the video if you can. If you have a league pass, please go back.
I did not see this. Yeah.
Ish gives him a look like, dude, why are you talking to me? Like you haven't played. I've scored more points than you, and you haven't played in 2 years. Don't talk to me right now. It was just so, he's like, listen, I'm 100 years old right now, and I've scored more points than you in the past 2 years. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, I hate it. I love who Cody is as a guy. Poor Cody. He's just trying to share his advice, man. He saw something on the court. He just saw something on the court. He decided to tell Ish about it. All right, you talked about some of the positives. Let's do it. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast, we'll get to some more of. Didn't see it.
I never know when these guys. Listen, I'm playing from home, which when I'm at home. Which when I'm at home is really a road game. And when that happens, you never know if the graphic is going to fire or what's going to happen. So anyway, take it away.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Yeah, I'll tell you what's coming up. We're going to get to some of the positives, some of the bright spots with the younger players on the Hornets roster, and maybe discuss.
I want to talk more about this Miles thing, if you don't mind, because, we didn't really dig into it, and I think it deserves some digging.
No, you're right. Yeah, Miles Bridges also being denied access into Canada. We'll get to more of that coming up next on Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. And whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked out for this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. They have a few guys. There's one rookie here to lead us off, and Brandon Pajemski.
You teased me there. I thought it was going to be Brandon Miller.
Brandon Pajemski. That same thing happened to me on one of the podcasts I was listening to. They were going with the all rookie team, and they're saying it's going to be really tough between this guy, that guy, this guy, and Brandon. I was like, finally, Pajemski. It happened. The same thing happened to me. Pajemski has looked comfortable as a starter for the Warriors and is widely available in fantasy leagues. He contributes across the board, and we'll keep it local with a couple of these other names. How about Grayson Allen with Bradley Beal out again? Ooh. Allen should see strong minutes and a nice increased usage role for the next few weeks. And then James Wiseman, very well could have been a Charlotte Hornet. Isaiah Stewart is hurt, and Wiseman has produced the last two games. Confidence in him is low, but the numbers and opportunities appear to be there. So that's Josh Lloyd helping you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. It's the same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly with brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs. eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or you get your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burdened rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. More Locked On Hornets ahead. By the way, just looking up, Nathan Mensah, don't know if he got denied access to Canada. Let's just put that out there, okay? Just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, you're putting him on the no-fly list for some reason. I don't know I don't know what was happening there.
No, you did that. I set out for personal reasons, I believe. I hope I said that.
Oh, my gosh. Roll back the tape. This should be a fine. This should go in the Flynn bucket.
No,
I'm not blaming me for something. Listen, you can blame me for a lot of things, and then I will blame the baby. But you can't blame me for this one. You said that he was denied a visa.
Well, I said personal reasons with the Hornets, and I thought, anyways, that was still in my head if I did say that. Mensah was out for personal reasons. He did not travel with the team. He was not with the team and was out for personal reasons. Let's just get that clear. But Adrian Wojnarowski reported, Kyle Bailey of WFNZ, I believe, had this first as well. Canada's decision to deny Miles Bridges entry into the country is unlikely to be reversed in time for him to arrive for tonight's game against the Raptors. Bridges, who pled no contest to felony charge of injuring a child's parent, was denied border access on Sunday, and Miles Bridges ended up not suiting up for the Charlotte Hornets. Now, Doug, what do you want to dive into a little bit more here? Is it the fact that the Charlotte Hornets did not have this ready to go for their first road game to go to Toronto?
Yeah, I mean, that's the surface level kind of obvious thing, right? Like as a team, when you know you have someone that is not only has this past no contest plea to a felony charge, and anytime you mention the word felony and traveling across the border to any country or traveling, flying out of the country, like that would seem to tick off something in someone's head to say, hey, we should probably check on this to make sure it's all well and good. And I can't imagine that this is the first kind of scenario in NBA history where someone with some kind of felony activity, guilty plea or not, no contest plea or not, has had to travel to Toronto. The NBA has had Canadian teams for a while now. And so the fact that no one in the organization bothered to figure this out prior to this game, which, that's crazy in and of itself. But then to think that a team that is so shorthanded would not cross all the T's, dot all the I's, check all the boxes to make sure that everyone possible could be available for a game, I think is just, it is incredible. It is a sign amongst many signs that we are dealing with an organization that is viewed around the league, and I think rightly so, as not having all of its stuff together. And if you think, well, this is a mistake, it doesn't matter, I'm just saying there is a perception around the league, and it's not just from executives. It's from players that could potentially become Charlotte Hornets someday, choose to even via free agency, or you're convincing someone that you trade for to stay with your organization. You would like to just sort of have this air of like, no, we're a championship level organization. We just need some things to go right. But all the other stuff, we take care of all that other stuff. They just don't have that reputation. And this is just one more piece that you can put into that this, new ownership group needs to really get their hands around and figure out as we move forward.
Yeah, and so I'm looking at the next game they have on the road against the Raptors, and it's March 3rd. And so they're going to have another game where they have to go across the border, and we'll see, I guess, if he's cleared by March 3rd. You do have, I think it was in February, Doug, when this next court date was going to happen with the latest violation of the protection order was allegedly taking place. And so I think the next court date is going to happen in between then. And so maybe there's something there that would allow Miles Bridges to cross the border. I don't know. The Hornets and Woj's phrasing was that as the Hornets were trying to figure out how to allow him to get there, like that people were working on it, but of course nothing happened. So maybe there's, maybe he gets in at that point. But you're right. Like this all caught everybody off guard, seemingly so. We did not know that this was potentially going to be the case. I guess I don't know why the Hornets would reveal that information to us at the end. Hey, this thing might not happen. This might not go down. But you would hope that they were doing everything they could. If they're going to bring Miles back, then you would think that they would be ready for this type of situation. And it did not seem that they were.
It didn't seem that way, and they have an opportunity. Part of their that's a dollar. Sorry, the part of their I think PR front would be to communicate. Hey, yeah, we knew this was going to be an issue. We've been working on it. We haven't been able to figure out a way to make it happen, and we're going to continue to work on it. But none of that communication happened, and so all of it seems like it looked like a big oopsie. Like, oops, I forgot my assignment, and the dog ate it. But nope, Miles Bridges can't play. Like, it just all seems, and that's how it's going to be perceived by people anyway. Even if. Look, if there are facts like that they've been trying, and this is just a Canada thing, and they're really stringent about it, and they weren't going to work with the NBA on this, then communicate that. Then let people know, because otherwise it looks like you were late on your homework.
Well, and so with the entire Miles Bridges saga, we had that report from Jake Fisher that it was unlikely. The NBA believed that it was unlikely Miles Bridges would return next season. You can't trade him, so it's not like you can collect assets as long as he says, no, I don't want to go there. He has the right to say no, and if he doesn't confirm that he wants to go to whatever destination, he's going to be on the team for the entire year and then bounce. The question is, man, you would really think that bringing a guy back like Miles Bridges, you would think about everything. You would think about what's going to affect us this way. Are we going to try to keep him long term? Do we just want the option to keep him long term? At least he's going to help us this year. My question is was all of it worth it? Like, bringing Miles Bridges back in order to have a season now where you're more than 10 games under 500, that's hindsight. Miles Bridges, I thought, was going to help this team, and he does. When he's on the court, basketball-wise, yeah, he clearly helps this team. He is one of the best players on the roster, but all of that is leading to a 10 to 11 game under 500 schedule to this point, with a tough part of your schedule still to come. The dude can't even play in Toronto as it stands right now. there was a violation of the protection order even after you brought him back from the first incident that allowed there to be a protection order in the first place. And then he's going to be gone after this season, right when he gets his legs back under him on an NBA court. Is it all really worth it? Because talking about things seeming what they are, like, it seems a resounding no. I know as a Hornets fan, this is not exactly thrilling to be a part of, with all the Miles baggage leading to another season they don't even get to the play-in.
Well, this was part of the argument not to bring him back, which was you were going to be dealing with things that you well, my argument was you were going to be dealing with things that you couldn't anticipate, that there could be situations down the line that you wouldn't know about, and we've seen that with the issues that he's faced with arrest warrants that all of a sudden came out of nowhere, and then you have these situations that you seemingly could have anticipated but didn't, and it is a reason, and I think they were right not to give him the long-term deal and the kind of money that him and his team were trying to get out of the Charlotte Hornets. They were right not to do that, because I mean, even if you look at his on-the-court performance, you're right. He has been one of the better players on this team in terms of just scoring volume, but his efficiency's down. His three-point shot has not improved. He's missing shots at the rim. Defensively, I would say overall he is a net slightly positive, but there have been confounding moments for him on the defensive end of the floor as
Some
well.
Bad ones, yeah.
His rebounding stats are not as good as they were a couple of years ago, and that's really, I think, the scoring at the rim and the rebounding are like the two things that the Hornets needed most, and reasons why you would bring him back. And those haven't necessarily presented themselves in the same way. And it is a smaller sample size, but I think enough to make some determinations at this point. He's not playing at an all-star level. His game has not grown since he was last on the court 2 years ago, and that was a concern for me. And bringing back a guy who hadn't been on the floor for a long time. Can you grow as a player without playing games night in, night out? I think so far the answer to that question is no.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. Well, and again, the guy missed a whole year, right? So he missed a whole season. We got it. And it's because of what he did. And so it's not like, oh, well, to be fair to Miles. No, that's because of what he did. That's because of what was the alleged incident that has now, even lasted. Here we are, December into 2023, going into 2024. And we're still not over this entirely. Yeah, it's been a problem. Here it is showing up once again. And just last thing, the basketball stuff we talked about, that's the very cynical approach. That's the viewing on behalf of the Hornets as to whether it's worth it to bring him back or not. There are clearly other reasons as to why you should not bring back Miles Bridges. But the basketball reasons would be that he helps you have a winning record. And no, you don't foresee LaMelo having another injury again. You don't see this type of injury history happening. But here they are as a team that doesn't look like a play-in team at all. Not even close to it.
But the Hornets viewed Miles before all of this happened. The Charlotte Hornets viewed Miles when they were about to give him close to, if not a max contract. They viewed him as a player that was going to be an all-star level player. And all-star level players are all-star level players regardless of whether or not another all-star plays alongside them. I don't like this idea, well, LaMelo's out, so of course he's not. In fact, that, to me, LaMelo being out, much like Terry has really elevated his game in a lot of different ways because LaMelo has been out, I just haven't seen that same level from Miles Bridges. He should be playing at an all-star level, and he's not.
No, he's not. All right. You can focus on the positives now?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast, we'll focus on the positives, some of the younger players that got some run last night, and focus a little more on what they did well. That's still to come in the final segment of Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase, and you can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know what you're getting, and you're getting a great deal without hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts, it's the place to find last-minute seats. Plus, you can find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, but not just sporting events, concerts, comedy, theater, even more than that. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last segment coming up on Locked On Hornets with a surprise. Stay tuned. Surprise! David's here. It's Tuesday.
Hey guys. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Everyone. Hello.
It's the Soul Man joining us. David Walker.
Honestly, usually you guys bring me in just to talk Bridges, and I didn't feel like doing that anymore today. So I appreciate you just jumping on and getting it going.
Yeah, exactly. We totally did not start recording early and forgot that you were going to come on Tuesday. What happened was we knew that we were going to have to talk about Bridges being denied entry into Canada, and literally every time we bring you on, something happens with Miles Bridges. It happens on a Monday for some reason. So we wanted to spare you. We're like Bally Sports, by the way. We want to spare you by not allowing you to view or participate.
More than you know, because every time you leave the Bally Sports app in game and then go back, it starts you over at the very beginning instead of going back to the last point. So like last night, you're watching the game at the third quarter. You jump back in, and as soon as you go back, it's Eric Collins and everyone welcome you in to Toronto.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, the League Pass app does something similar in the iPad version, at least. I'll be watching the Hornets feed, and it'll go to break, and all of a sudden I'll look up and I'm watching the opposing team's feed, which is like, it's like asking me, are you sure you wouldn't like to watch the winning team's broadcast?
Yeah. Like, why are you here? There's no one here.
I feel like also we're like Bally Sports in a way because we just don't keep the promises that we make. And it's like, we promise we're going to do this, and then we end up not doing that. That's also Bally. So we're,
as much charm.
Yeah, I guess you can call it charm. All right, David, did you have any Miles Bridges thoughts that you wanted to share with us, or did you just want to go right into something else? Because I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to force you at all. If you wanted to just give me other thoughts on this game against Toronto, if you wanted to give us your first bright spot, if we forced you to say something positive, what would that look like? You take it away. The floor is yours because we took it from you the first 2 segments.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I look forward to going back and listening with the rest of the crazies, the psychos, to hear what you guys say about Bridges. I'll just say that that's just more nonsense. Just nonsense on top of nonsense. You know, it's just that's how you don't run things like an organized organization. I mean, what else are you going to say at this point? It's something new every week. But no, I don't want to talk about that anymore. I will say, I think an underrated bright spot that I did not see coming is Eric Collins announcing Leaky Black breakaway dunks. It's become, I think, the new viral moment that this season really needed. I thought Leaky Black might get some playing time last week, and all it took was 75% of the roster being out on a road trip and one person getting detained at the border, and you throw him in there. So, but like part of him and part of what they were doing last night, some of the defensive pressure, I thought, was a mini bright spot for a little while. Some of those guys getting out there, coming off of that 53-point blasting over the weekend and just showing some life, getting out on the road and showing some life. But yeah, there were certainly some bright spots last night, guys. I mean, they were up for a while. The defense was there for a little bit and then went away. But obviously Terry too is a big bright spot, and he has been. He deserves a lot of credit too. I mean, it's going way under the radar, but I think he's playing super well.
Yeah, I mean, we have to understand that they just got done getting beat by 53 points to the Philadelphia 76ers, and had they come into this one and gotten beat by 30 plus, 40 plus, then I think we would actually be having serious conversations about should Steve Clifford be removed, because then you would think like, okay, the message is not being received. But I think whatever message he had, and he said, prior to the game, hey, look, I understand how shorthanded we are, but we can win this game. at least for 3 quarters, that message was received. And you're right, the defensive pressure was a lot different. P.J. Washington, 4 steals, an injured, an ailing P.J. Washington getting 4 steals.
In the first half, too. Yeah.
In the first half, I think it was nice, career high for him in steals. And you had chase down blocks by Brandon Miller. You had guys getting back on defense through those first 3 quarters. It really was just that offensive rebounding at the end of the game that cost them. My bright spot, though, is a Bryce spot. Strong first half for Bryce McGowan's 10 points, 5 rebounds, had a block as well, doing it on both ends. The weird thing about Bryce McGowan's is that he plays so outstanding as a starter, and then when he goes back to a limited role on the bench, kind of disappears a little bit. I mean, I think if you're Bryce, you walk into the office, you say, look, coach, don't send me back to the bench. When you make me a starter, you should just leave me there. I'm playing really well.
Yeah, it's the Terry Rozier effect. That was the main selling point. I remember when Terry had not played a game yet for the Hornets, and they had just had the Kemba Walker, Terry Rozier sign and trade. And Steve Kyler of Basketball Insiders, their main selling point, Terry's agent, could not stop telling you about when Terry started, the numbers were so much better than what they were when he came off of the bench. And here's Terry coming in and having played a lot better than what he did in Boston as efficiency wise. And we see that, just him continue to grow as a basketball player anyway. Maybe there's a little of that scary Terry-ness to Bryce McGowan's. Maybe there is a little of that. He's played a decent amount in December, and he's shooting 46% from the field. He's shooting 75% on free throw attempts. He's taking 2 a game, which isn't bad because you're talking about limited minutes for him. And so, the percentage is still pretty good for him. Yeah, Bryce McGowan's like showing enough to where it maybe on the JT Thor train, you just hope to see him grow in the 3rd year, if that makes sense. Like just something like, okay, you would trade him, fine. He's certainly not an untouchable by any stretch, but like there's enough there to where you could possibly be excited about him going forward. And we'll see. It's the 3rd year will say a lot, and he's going to get more opportunities as long as there's injuries. But Bryce McGowan's Bryce spot, as you put it. Yeah, I think that's true. I like what we saw.
Honestly, how the Hornets were up in this game, befuddled a lot of people. John Hollinger, one of them out on the internet there. But it says a lot. I think it does go back to pump up Clifford a little bit. I mean, the Hornets and the Raptors, and Sam Perley mentioned this on the pregame radio show last night, they're kind of in similar spots, but the difference is the Raptors are 100% healthy,
right? And
the Hornets are 100% not healthy. So it's like, what is going on? The Raptors have their own issues. You can tune into Locked On Raps for that. But, I mean, you got to give those guys a little bit of credit. They were fighting. It's just been the same old, same old. It came down to the end of the game where they could not get a rebound. And Scotty Barnes looked like Joel Embiid out there getting those 17, 18 rebounds. It killed him.
Well, I mean, you even go to Toronto's bench. I mean, how about a guard grabbing 10 boards and Gary Trent in 35 minutes? And then Achua had all the offensive rebounds. He had 5 offensive rebounds to the 7. And then Scotty had 17. You're talking about multiple guys having, I think there's 4 total that had 7 or more. And yet here's PJ with 7, 6 defensive. Nick Richards had 10, but 6 defensive. So, the offensive rebound thing is good for Nick, and the defensive just isn't nearly as much. And so that's how you get continue to get beat on the glass just every single night. And it's driving Steve Clifford crazy.
But let's be honest about it. I know we're trying to keep it positive here, but I'd like to keep it honest, keep it 100,
Thank
keep
you
it
for
a buck,
jumping in
as the
on
kids
that,
say.
Doug. It's too much. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So, look, the Hornets are where they are via circumstance, because I think we got some early hints that if this team were fully healthy, they had some pretty critical issues that they had to figure out, and I'm not confident they would have had it figured out by now. And so I think the Hornets would be had they been fully healthy, I really do think they would be in a similar position to Toronto, where you're going, what's going on with this roster? I mean, I think that's why we're not sitting here saying, hold the line, keep going with the way this roster is constructed right now, because there were injuries. We're not going to do that for a 3rd straight year. I think that's why we're advocating for a little bit of a retooling here moving forward. The Hornets are looking for answers right now, and we have David Walker on. He found an answer. He found Allen Iverson, AI. What's going on? What's going on with that?
Big weekend, guys. This was during the 50-point shellacking against the 76ers.
53. You guys keep saying 50.
53.
You're cheating the Philadelphia 76ers.
I think you just
points.
brand it. Once you cross the 50-point threshold, it's a 50-point beatdown, regardless
right.
of 54, 53, whatever. But yeah, the answer, NBA legend, NBA GOAT himself was hanging out underneath. I was lucky enough to be at the game. Shout out Dave for taking me to the game. We took our boys, our 10-year-olds, to see the Hornets.
Do they know about Allen Iverson? Do they know?
Well, they do now. Okay. Maybe they do now. We spent the first half of the game, eating Chick-fil-A, and then made it to the seats in time for Embiid to score like his 20th point in the first quarter or whatever. But then third quarter comes around, and you know, there's a little backcourt club. If you've ever been down there, there's a little hospitality area. We just happened to be hanging out in there, and by this point, I had given in. I had given my, I'm sorry, not 10-year-old, 8-year-old. You have two kids. You swap them out.
You have babies.
I had given up and given him my phone at this point because he'd been asking for the phone all night. Wanted to play some games, and I look up and in comes Allen Iverson, and I quickly snatched it back from him.
Give me that kid.
And said, "Stop that crying!" Right, and I went
not
full,
in front of Iverson.
I went full schoolgirl mode. I mean, honestly, I was on the borderline of hyperventilating. Talked to Iverson, asked him for a quick pick. And
then now, did you call him Al? You know, I make fun of you a lot for calling legend Pat Riley Pats. You call him Al.
No, I called him AI, but I wasn't prepared enough. I should have called him by his nickname, which is Chuck or Bubba Chuck, which I think most of his close confidants.
Yeah, a lot of people go Chuck. People, if you see Allen Iverson, you call him Chuck. That's what it is.
Exactly. So
if I saw him, I would call him Mr. Allen Iverson.
That did not sink in until the very end, which, by the way, when he and his crew were getting up there, he was like, "All right, where's my guy?" And I assumed the position of his guy, got up, got a quick pick with him. My son and the rest of my party was not quick enough. They were not Iverson quick, so no one else got a picture, just me. And as he was walking away, I said, "Thanks, Chuck." So I did get it in there. I don't think he heard me. But yeah, I introduced him around the table.
Thanks, Chuck.
I said, "Guys, this is one of the greatest to ever do it. He's unbelievable." And these two 8-year-olds looked at me like
and said, "Give me, I want to play Minecraft."
Was that? Yes. Give me the phone back. I need get in my Robux.
All right.
So the highlight of the night, guys. I mean, obviously, I looked up at the screen and the Hornets were down 53, and literally, I could have floated out of there. It was just a great night meeting another legend, another Tales from the Street for you guys.
Thank you.
We love all of them. Yeah, and that's the night you want it to happen anyway. There's no reason to pay attention to that game. 50-point loss. Might as well salvage it with meeting the answer. All right, that'll do it. David Walker, thanks for joining us for the last segment. Glad you were able to have a photo finish appearance there. You can find him on Twitter at David B. Walker, the soul man. By the way, hey, did you see the dub? Got the Midnights. Got the Midnight Navies. I got them.
Are they in yet? Are they coming in this week?
I believe this week at some point. I'm not sure. In the next couple days, they're going to be coming in.
Well
but
done.
Yeah, going to be here before Christmas. Thank you. I appreciate
Merry
it.
Christmas, guys. Happy holidays to everyone.
It really is Santa. He really just dropped in for a little bit.
Wow, that's great. That's from Allen Iverson. You just got a happy holidays from Allen Iverson's best friend.
From his guy. From his guy. You need to change that. You need to put your bio. Yeah, Allen Iverson's guy. That's what he said. Yeah. That's Doug Branson. You can check him out on everyhornetsboxscore.com. Listen to me on Sports Radio 92.7 FM, WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.